Good morning, everybody. Welcome to our Thursday tea and toast. Hope you are all at home doing well, not feeling too cold this morning. Yeah, gosh, not nice out there today, is it? Couldn't actually be more different than yesterday. I guess that is the British weather for you. So if you haven't seen any of our tea and toast before and you haven't watched anything online with us, I'm Jasmin. I'm a conversation starter at the Yard. And although our doors are closed-ish, we are really progressing. We're always still open. We've done everything online throughout the last lockdown and all the way through this pandemic. But actually, yesterday, if you saw, Georgia and I were actually in the building doing our first tea and toast there. And we are very, very slowly moving forward to being back in the building full time, which is really exciting. Yesterday was a funny old day. Morning, Georgia. Wasn't it strange being together yesterday?
I know. I think it was the first time that we've been sat next to each other for maybe 6 months or more.
Yeah,
I think probably. I think last time was maybe in autumn last year. So yeah, it was really weird. I could touch you. I mean, I didn't because of social distancing, but I could have.
I know.
I could have.
And instead of like just sitting chatting to you there, I was like looking at you there, and yeah, it was very bizarre, but also very lovely because it sort of felt like, oh my gosh, we're slowly getting back to some sort of normality, which was great. And morning, lovely Laurel. How are you this morning?
I'm okay.
You okay?
Yeah.
It was funny old morning yesterday, wasn't it? Because we had
It was definitely different.
Yeah.
Because both of you were in the same screen.
I know. That was so bizarre. And you was at home.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's different that you were like next to each other.
I know.
You wanted to whack each other if you wanted to have a whack.
Oh, I know. I did say yesterday, if Georgia starts to annoy me, I can just give her a little now. Obviously, not that I would, but who knows? Oh, anyway, how are we all feeling this morning? Let's do a bit of internal weather to get us going this morning. Come on, Georgia. Let's start with you. How are you feeling today?
So I'm gonna shock you. I'm gonna surprise you. So I'm actually a little bit cloudy today.
Are you?
For the first time.
I think that's the first time.
Yeah. So like there is a little bit of sunshine there. So I'm a bit cloudy because I just feel really tired. I handed in my dissertation last night.
Yay! So, well done you. Well done you.
That's something I've been like struggling with since just before Christmas, I think it was. So yeah, I'm really happy that I've handed it in, but I think I've just been so exhausted. Because I mean, you know how it is. Like if there's like multiple things going on all the time, then it's hard to kind of take a step back and do that like self-care. So I think that this weekend, I think my plan is to basically make myself into a human burrito, and I'm just gonna wrap myself up in a duvet and basically not leave. And my partner, who's sitting there, he can just kind of bring me tea.
Wait on you, hand and foot.
Yeah, weight on me, hand and foot. Give me like a foot massage, like all that, because my feet were poking out the bottom of the burrito. And
bring you Easter eggs.
Bring me Easter eggs, yeah. And I shall only leave the burrito for crises, including going to the bathroom and if I have to
gin.
Yes, exactly. Because what I'm hoping is that he'll just kind of fill up my glass. Yeah. Stick a straw in it, and then just every now and then be like, oh, and I'll and then, so yeah.
Love it. That sounds like a perfect weekend. Definitely. Laurel, how are you feeling this morning? How's your internal weather?
The internal weather isn't as sunny as it was yesterday. Today it's a bit cloudy. It's really because of the weather. It's like,
I know. It's a bit depressing, isn't it?
Yeah, like at least I could get out of bed this morning. It's better than most Thursdays, but it was still cloudy now. We've had 3 days of sun, and now it's back to being cloudy and grey.
I know. It is. It makes you feel a bit like this with your emotions, doesn't it? Because I don't know about you guys, but I'm very much like the way I'm feeling is very dependent on the weather. So exactly what you just said, Laurel. Like when you wake up and the sun's shining, it makes me feel like I've got more of a get up and go attitude. I want to, ready to take the day on. But you wake up to this. So yeah, I'm feeling a bit the same as you guys today. I'm a bit cloudy, a little bit. Ooh, I feel tired as well. Yeah, I'm just a bit. Oh, we had 2 days of really lovely weather, which gets you into this sort of, they lulled us into a false sense of security that spring's on its way.
Monday was sunny, Tuesday was
sunny. Yeah, true,
Wednesday was sunny day.
Yeah,
so,
and it's
3 days of sun, and now we've got like several days
freezing.
Of not.
I know. I've had to put the heating on again today because I'm absolutely frozen. I know. I don't do good in the cold. But yeah, it's funny. Like Georgia was just saying, like she's feeling really tired. She's had loads on, and I think a lot of people are feeling this way at the moment. And I think there's a couple of things to it. I think we're all very exhausted with the lockdown, with the pandemic. This has been going on for such a long time now. But another reason why, I don't know if you guys agree with me, but I think that we can all feel a bit tired. It's like we're going through a period of change at the moment. So obviously the roadmap changed on Monday. And as Georgia and I were just saying, it was our first day back in work yesterday. So the first time we'd been there since October. And I think just that in itself, although working from home becomes so normal and you get so used to it and easy. So then when you actually have to get yourself up, ready, drive to work, just that in itself, I think takes it really well. It takes it out of you because especially Georgia had a very long day yesterday. I didn't have quite as long day at work, but just the whole getting back into that routine, it's going to take people a bit of time, isn't it?
Yeah, and I also think that there's an element of like building up that stamina because say if we just take it as an example, like my day when I'm working from home, so I'll get up, shower, brush teeth, all that kind of stuff, and then I'll do like tea and toast, and then after I do tea and toast, I might just lie on the bed for 10 minutes. And just rest for like 10 minutes and just not do anything. And then I might get up again and be like, I'm going to do some emails. I'm going to do some research. I'm going to do this, that, and the other. And then after that, plonk, back down in my bedroom, lying on my bed for 10 minutes. So then it becomes that like routine of do some work, rest, do some work, rest. But then when you're actually physically at the office for some people, you might have a very manual job. So, I mean, how they're going to get back to doing that kind of stuff, I don't know, because if I can hardly do this, so just going back into the office, you can't really do some work and then go lie down on the floor for 10 minutes.
No. Well, see, that's exactly it. So I'll do a bit of work and then I'll sit and make myself a coffee and watch 10 minutes of Phil and Holly on This Morning, then go back, you have that. And like you say, yesterday, I mean, we just didn't stop from one thing to the other, did we? And that's what it is like in the office, which it's going to take us all, regardless of what job you do or where you do it. I think it's going to take the whole everyone a while to settle back in. And I think for some people as well, some people really struggle with change. Now I'm one of them people. I hate change. Some people can really embrace it. I can't. It makes me anxious. It makes me feel stressed, and it takes me a while to get back into that routine. I know, Laurel, you struggle with change, don't you?
I literally hate any change. Any change causes me anxiety, causes lots of stress, and I end up having shutdowns, meltdowns, and they aren't pretty. And I feel crap after it. I had one before a lecture, and I can't remember what the lecture was on. I remember what module I was in. I literally put my recorder on because I had recording lectures because I'm dyslexic. Because I'm not good at remembering stuff normally, and I can't remember. Literally, I came out of the lecture and goes, I've no idea what I've just been in for the last 2 hours. Or literally, my brain was so fried. I didn't remember the lecture I was in. Luckily, I had it recorded because I had no idea what my lecture had been on the last 2 hours.
I think I'm slightly better with change. It doesn't upset me as much, I don't think. But I do think I probably struggle more with like stamina because of my mobility issues as well, like on top of just the general fatigue, I guess. So yeah, I think I probably struggle more with the stamina aspect of it. Like, I love, doing what we do. I love it, absolutely love it, and I can't get enough of it. I'm like, oh yeah, I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do all these things, and then I guess like at some points, like, my body kind of reminds me, like, okay, you need to slow down.
Slow down. I had the same realization last night. Yesterday, I literally was like going, "What day is it today? Is it Sunday? 'Cause it feels like a Sunday now."
Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? But then it's like, with you talking about stamina, Georgia, and I think it's the same for the children having gone back to school. I've had so many people say to me, "Oh God, they've broken up for 2 weeks Easter holiday. They've only been back 3 weeks," and actually, they needed this break. My kids were absolutely shattered, and if you think the children haven't been sat in a classroom for almost 3 months before they went back, so their stamina, their concentration span, all of that in itself needs gradually building up again as well. So, I know lots of my friends who have got kids and whatnot, I'm saying the same, they were absolutely exhausted. So this sort of 2-week break for them is sort of well needed, But yeah, so something I saw in the news, I heard a couple of days ago about Spain moving to a 4-day week. And then I read something in the news this morning about there's some talk about it in this country. So what do you reckon about a 4-day week? Is it a good thing or a bad thing?
I think we should have moved to a 4-day week like years ago. I just think that if people work 5 days a week, especially in a row, because some people don't, they do like 1 day on and then a couple days off and all the rest of it. But if you're working 5 days a week continuously, I think people just get burnt out, like, eventually, and then that might lead to like problematic issues, with like stress and anxiety and depression and things like that, because it can really impact the way that you feel if you feel like you're, if you're always on, like, for large spans of time. What do you think?
Well, I think it's a great thing. I think that we should be doing it. Like you said, we should have been doing this a long time ago. When we think about a work-life balance, which is really important, which companies, and I've worked for like big organisations, and we must get the work-life balance right. And actually, I don't feel like 5 days on, 2 days off is a work-life balance. I think 4 days and 3, and I actually think if we went to a 4-day week, you'd probably get more productive employees for those 4 days because they know they then got 3 days off. I think you get more out of people. What do you think, Laurel?
I'm a bit odd because I wanna. Well, the only thing I know of is I like medical stuff. So, and medical people don't really usually have days off. So the 4-day week, I don't know how it would work in medicine. Yeah, some junior doctors don't have any days off in like weeks and months.
They don't ever have a day off.
They don't have days off. Like training, they don't have days off. Like days off are rare in medicine. Like some courses, like doctors and nurses, days off are rare. So I don't know how that would work in medicine. That's the only thing, because medicine's a 24-hour, 365. It's all the year. It's all the full time. Doesn't stop.
So saying that, Laurel, there is a lot of talking, like, say, like nurses groups and stuff about how they feel like so overworked and stressed out, and then lots of nurses and junior doctors end up like dropping out because of like stress or because of anxiety, because they're like always.
I think there was a BMJ paper recently. They've done a survey that 1 in 4 people out the medical profession want to leave.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so I mean, it does depend on your profession and which sector you work in. I guess we're mostly talking about office workers and people who work a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday kind of situation. But yeah, I also agree that in the medical sector community, that there needs to be more thought into how to give those people days off so they don't become burnt out, because you won't want someone operating on you or doing something serious and they've not slept in 48 hours. I would feel a little bit, I'd be like, do you want to go have a little nap first before you take my appendix out? Do you want to have a little power nap?
Appendix is small surgery compared to other surgeries.
Yeah, I still want them to do it. I don't care. They could be like, like removing a mole or something. I would still want them to be completely there with it. I want them to be like, oh, it's only an appendix.
I'm sorry.
That wouldn't make me feel good.
I'm sorry.
Why are you sorry? Why are you sorry?
Right.
Saying it's small surgery.
I know, I'm sure it is, but
yeah,
in
the bigger scheme of things,
100% there.
You want them to be on the ball, fully, brains working, 100%. And I guess the thing is, it's very easy, hypothetically, to sit here and go, yes, we want to have a 4-day working week. I'm not sure how the logistics of it would work. I mean, that's something else. Obviously, it's not for me to try and work that one out. But I do think if there was a way of moving forward with that, and perhaps it doesn't have to be, it's not right for everyone. Doesn't fit every profession, doesn't fit every person. But if there was that option for people, I think that's what will probably help.
I like the funny thing. This is one thing about COVID that I found quite funny, is the disability community have been asking for ages to work at home, and then COVID happened, and everybody had to work at home, and the companies were all fine about it. That's the one funny thing I found about COVID.
So, it's ironic.
Yeah.
I wouldn't okay, so a little bit of background. So I've, worked from home on and off for years because of my, my disability, my issues. And the amount of jobs that will be like, oh, you can't work from home.
Not possible.
It's not possible. You can't do it. And then obviously COVID's hit, and companies had to quickly adjust and become versatile, because otherwise they were going to all go bankrupt and then, have no business. Yeah. So then obviously now companies have realised, we don't actually need to pay for all these different offices all around the country and spend loads of money on that, because actually 80% of these people could work from home. So actually we would be saving money by allowing people to work from home, because we're not going to be paying for all this office space. So then, as you say, Laurel, now there's a load of people going, well, how come I haven't been able to work from home for the last 5 years or whatever, that I've been asking for it?
I know. Well, actually, this week, Nationwide Building Society have said now, choose where you want to work. If you want to work from home full time, do it. If you want to come into the office, do it. Or if you want to do a bit of both, do it. I used to work for Nationwide Building Society. There was not a chance in hell they would ever let you work at home. But like I say, this pandemic has had to make different organisations and companies adapt how they do things. And actually, like exactly what you said, they've realised that things can be done in a different way. But had it not been for this pandemic, these things wouldn't even be an option. So it's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, my partner works for a bank. And he is very lucky that he's been able to do a couple of days from home for the last couple of years. But now his line manager has basically said, we don't really expect people to come into work more than 1 day a week when everyone goes back, because they said we've proven that it is completely possible to work from home, and it's going to end up saving them money, because they're not going to have to pay all this rent and electricity and power, water,
definitely,
that kind of stuff. So actually, I think a lot of companies are starting to be like, actually, we could let people work from home. They can go pick up their kids from school, so that means that they're going to be happier. They can clock out and then actually be done with work, because if you commute, you might finish work at 5 and then not be home till 6.
Definitely.
So you're losing a couple of hours every day just from travelling.
Yeah, I think it's during this whole pandemic, it's been really hard to try and take any positives from it, because it's felt a very negative driven year and a bit so far. But I think if we look back, and I'd say that one of the positives we have to take from this is the adaptation of people's working lives, and I think that has got to be a positive because it's made a huge difference to so many people. But yeah, definitely. So let's move on from working from home. So what day is it today?
The 1st of April.
Yeah, April Fool's Day. Any April Fool's jokes happened? Are you April Fool's people? Do you try and trick anyone, or is it not your thing?
I have sometimes depends on if I'm out and about or not.
But you, Georgia?
No, I'm not an April Fool's kind of person.
Have you ever had anyone like do an April Fool's joke on you?
I don't think any that have been successful. I think there might have been like some in the past, and then I've just been like, that's just not true.
Rubbish.
So
yeah.
How about you, Jazz?
Well, so here we go. So I was telling, we had a little catch up online before we obviously came live. I was fuming this morning because I had an April Fool's joke happen to me. Now, it wasn't, personal or intentional to me. I had to take my son and drop him off at football camp at his school, which is in the village just up the road from us. And he's been there yesterday, the day before, and there's been roadworks just at the start of the village. So, a couple of minutes, it goes green. Anyway, today, so I dropped him off. I turned around in the village to come back. The lights were at red. There was 2 cars in front of me. So they're sat there 5 minutes. I'm thinking, I'm such an impatient person. And I'm thinking like, I need to get back. I've got a work meeting at 9:30. Literally 15 minutes sat there. No cars are moving. The lights aren't changing from red. We're all just sat there. I was getting to the point I wanted to start like beeping my horn. I was getting so cross. I was fuming. But the thing is that one of the builders was standing by the red light. So it's not like we could even think, oh, sod it, we're going to just go. So anyway, 15 minutes. The queue of traffic was ridiculous. So in the car in front of me was a lady that I knew. Anyway, drove off, got home, she texted me. So apparently one of our other friends was also in the queue, and where they have the phone numbers of who the builders are or something like that, they rang that number, and it was an April Fool's joke. They were playing, the builders were playing an April Fool's joke on each other. But I ended up suffering from that April Fool's joke because no traffic moved. Both ends were sat there, honestly. When our lot was allowed to go through, by the time I got to the other end, the queue of traffic of people waiting, because it's a real small country lane, I was fuming. I was like, what a stupid April Fool's prank to pull when all these people are trying to get to work and so. But yeah, everyone I've told thinks it's really funny, but I just haven't seen the funny side of it yet, to be honest. So yeah, that was my April Fool's joke. When I go to pick him up later, they better not do it to me again. I'm telling you now. If it happens again,
you've got to expect it to happen.
No, if it happens again, I'm getting out my car and I'm going to go and talk to them and tell them what I think of their blooming April Fool's jokes. But I think isn't the rule that
the funny side?
No, I don't care. I'm not having it, Laurel. I'm not wasting my time sat in the blooming car. But isn't the rule though? You're not supposed to do them after midday. Isn't there some sort of rule?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
So I'm not picking him up till 3:15. So hopefully they'll be all over it then. They won't be. I'll let you know next week if it happens again because I'll still be fuming. But I'm not. I don't think I've ever done an April Fool's joke on anyone. The only thing me and my kids do, and it's not April. It's just the first day of each month. We do that pinch punch first day of the month.
Yeah.
And then punch kick for being so quick.
I don't do it more because I do it too hard. I was like, I'm not doing it any harder than last month.
I don't know, but I think sometimes like you have to be careful with April Fool's jokes because I have seen on social media sometimes people can perhaps pull some like quite insensitive April Fool's jokes, can't they? So it's and I remember last year when it came to April the 1st, we've been in lockdown maybe like a couple of weeks and everyone was like, look, we don't need April Fool's jokes this year. The world is just a joke at the moment anyway, so just let's not go there.
Since the 1st of April last year I was more stressing about my dissertation going in than April Fool's Day actually happening. And Easter, because I had I think this time last year I had like this week to contact my lecturers about my dissertation before my dissertation went in.
So it was a pretty stressful time for you.
We had just gone into lockdown. I had an email lecture about data because something happened. I wasn't there for the lecture on data collection. My data was like deranged because I didn't have really much data because mine wasn't really a data-filled dissertation. So my data was deranged. So I had to try and explain to my lecturer that he knew that my data was a bit deranged and what should I do with it.
Yeah.
So he told me what to do quickly by email. I was like, okay, I'll try and do this. So I tried to do that and managed to pass my dissertation, so it worked. But I was stressed doing it. I was like, I don't think I've wrote the right stuff.
Yes, a stressful time by the sounds of it. But you did it and you was all good. So
yeah.
Okay, right. Something we have to speak about. There's a couple of things still that I've got down that we need to speak about today. But Georgia, let's speak about what's going on Saturday. It's quite important.
Right, yeah. So I don't know if I think I might be cutting out a little bit, but I'm gonna try and see how much I can get through. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. So on Saturday we are doing a Reclaim the Streets, Kill the Bill gathering. No, hold on, let me go back. If you happen to be in town on Saturday and you happen to be going past the BBC Radio Northampton, then you might also have to see other people who will also be there around a time.
I don't know. Let me have a look. I'll have a look what time it is.
Yeah.
I don't know what time
I had it up a second ago. It is 1 p.m. It's 1 p.m. Yeah. So if you happen to be there at 1 p.m., you might happen to see other people who are not protesting.
No.
But there will be, people that might be talking about how the bill is silly and how we need to collectively fight against it. Because, as we've talked about before, this is the police crime and sentencing bill. And it basically means that they're trying to outlaw protests, to be honest, because they're saying if you're causing any kind of a nuisance or if you're being loud, then you could be fined up to £10,000, I think it is, and you could even be sent to prison.
Ridiculous. Basically just taking away our freedom of speech.
Yeah, exactly. And they're trying to get it in by saying that it's because of like COVID and like all of this. But the thing is, obviously, we're on this roadmap, so they're trying to tell us, oh, we'll be out of this by June, because that's what they're saying, isn't it? That we'll be out doing stuff by June. So in like the last minute kind of thing, they're going, oh, let's try and get this bill through by saying that it's against COVID regulations, because then they can say, oh, well, now that we're not in COVID times anymore, because, fingers crossed, we get out of it in the next sort of year or two, then they can say, oh, but you're still not allowed to protest because we outlawed it, remember?
Yeah. I mean, I had a quick look on the Chronicle and Echo page just before we came on, because they had an article on there from Northamptonshire Police asking people not to go to the town centre at the weekend and don't get involved in anything that might be going on. And there were so many people commenting on there saying this is against COVID regulations, but actually it's not. So from Monday, when the roadmap changed and the rule of 6 and 2 households came in, you're not actually breaking any COVID regulations. Prior to that, yes, absolutely, but you're not now, are you? We double checked, and it's not actually against the law. You're social distancing, you're wearing masks, and you're just, happen to be in an area at a time of the day where there may be some people just having a chat about stuff, basically.
I mean, if you just happen to be there, if you were already planning on taking the leisurely walk through town at 1 p.m. on Saturday outside BBC Radio Northampton, then you might happen to see other people. And they might also be talking about this kill the bill. So
I think the thing is that there was lots of comments on the Chronicle and Echo article saying, oh, the people are idiots if they go to this and that and that and that. And do you know, how do we stop things we don't agree with then? How are we supposed to give our points of view across? How are we ever supposed to, if this bill goes through and then we're not allowed to have a say in things?
Yeah.
What then? Because all these people saying they're idiots, they're this, they're that, there's going to come a point in time, there's going to be something brought in that they don't agree with.
Yeah.
Sure, you know, just life.
And to be honest with you, so obviously we've got the way that we kind of show our collective disapproval at things at the moment is basically through protests and letters to your MPs, you know, all that kind of stuff, and also petitions. Now, I do believe in the power of petitions in a sense of bringing people together to agree that, you know, something isn't on in all this. But there are so many times where I've signed a petition and I've ticked that box saying, you know, keep me updated with what happens.
Yeah.
And so many times I get like an email a couple of weeks later and it will have this like response from Parliament saying like, oh, so we're not going to be talking about, you know, this petition because we've already like released a press release or like we've already spoken about it. And it's like, yeah, but you've not actually changed it. It's not actually been stopped, or it's not actually been helped, or it's not been, you know, any of these things. So basically you've had like, say, 200,000 people sign this petition for no reason because you're not going to talk about it. The only other way then is to say, okay, well, if you're not going to talk about it, even though 200,000 people have told you, then they're going to end up protesting, aren't they? Because they're going to be like, well, what else is there for me to do? Like if you won't listen when we're trying to be, you know, responsible and polite and like all of this, the only other option is to be loud and assertive and, you know, get the point across in a different way.
And I think, you know, the narrative has to be changed in that these aren't always violent things.
For sure.
It doesn't have to be violence involved, but the press and I think the police and the media always try to portray it as a violent, abusive, aggressive, sort of coming together of people. And actually, quite often, it's the complete wrong narrative of what the whole thing was and was about, you know?
And quite frankly, it irritates me because what they do is they say, okay, we're doing X. And then people do a petition or they write to their MPs or whatever, and they say, we don't agree with X. And then they say, well, we're going to do it anyway. And then those people who complained or whatever, they get so irritated because this has happened so many times that they end up being like, right, well, we're going to protest them because you're not listening. And then when they do go out and protest, some people are so angry because this happens systematically, it happens all the time, that then a few people do say, well, you know what, I want to break things, you know, I want to shout, I want to scream, I want to throw things, I want to do all this, that and the other. And it's not because of necessarily that this one little thing's happened, it's that this little thing happens all the time. So they're ignored all the time. So there's only so much that you can be ignored until you lose your proverbial rag. Because,
definitely.
I mean, you would, wouldn't you?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, if you don't, you know, if you're listening to us speaking now and thinking, well, you know, I'm not sure about this, if you go onto the Community Courtyard Facebook page, and at the top is the statement, kill the bill, which has been put. And actually, I was just having a look now, and I don't know if you'll be able to see it, but there's the amount of signatories that have signed up to this, and you're not going to be able to read it, but they're all different. Look at how many.
Yeah.
Loads. It's really interesting having a look through who, you know, the people who are sort of signing up to this, probably more than what I thought. But yeah, if you're not sure which way you sort of lay on this, have a read of it and just sort of find out a bit more, because it's really important, and I think it's going to be a really important thing going forward for us in the sort of world we live in.
And something that I would really like to know, or I'd really like to get some feedback from, if you're watching this and you work for the police, or you disagree with the act of protesting, etc., please tell me how we're supposed to enact real change without doing those things if petitions fail. Because if there's like a magic way of like getting them to listen to us, then I would like to know, because I'm sure that a lot of activists, Extinction Rebellion, Reclaim These Streets, Black Lives Matter, I'm sure that they would all love to hear about this way of enacting this change without having to protest at all. Because I mean, we've got better things to do, haven't we? Really,
absolutely.
Than just stand outside in the freezing cold talking about how we've been failed yet again by this government.
Yeah. I mean, in an ideal world, no one really wants to be doing that if there's an easier way to get the point across. But it seems, excuse me, to have come to the point where there's no other option. So it's a difficult one. But yeah, have a read up on it if you're not sure. And it is really quite interesting. Oh, sorry. Can you hear that? It's my Alexa. They must have thought I said Alexa, and now Alexa's trying to tell me something. No idea what she's on about. Anyway, moving on. So something else really interesting in the news today is about Boris Johnson. Surprise, surprise. And this report he commissioned, which has led to one of his advisors, a black advisor, actually stepping down. Have you seen this, Laurel or Georgia?
Yeah, so I had like a quick look at what was happening. So quite understandably, everyone's kicking off because this report was essentially trying to say that racism is no longer an issue in the country, and that this country is no longer like a racist country. And I don't know who's doing this, like who's done this report exactly. But if I read out a quote. So this is a direct quote from the report. Put simply, we no longer see a Britain where the system is deliberately rigged against ethnic minorities. And then it also then says, the report proposes a fresh approach to the Caribbean experience, which speaks to the slave period not only being about profit and suffering, but how culturally African people transform themselves into a remodeled African Britain.
Wow.
So that is basically trying to say, let's not focus on the slavery.
Let's move on from that.
Yeah,
let's not didn't happen.
Yeah, let's approach this in a fresh way. Let's not talk. I mean, we've talked enough about it, haven't we? I just can't believe it. I cannot believe how tone deaf this report is, and I can't see how any black or ethnic minority read that report
not take offence to that.
Did someone read it and be like, yeah, that sounds good to me. Let's have a fresh approach to
someone signed that off. Yeah, someone signed that off and gone, yeah. And, it's unbelievable. And, it speaks absolute volumes that Boris Johnson's, one of his advisors, has stepped down because of it. That's a statement. That is saying, hold on a sec, that report is incorrect. There is still racism within within the UK, 100%. It's terrible, really, isn't it? And like I must say at this point, Community Courtyard, the Yard, we stand in solidarity with black ethnic minorities. It's a fight that continues to need to be fought, I feel like, and I don't mean that in an aggressive way, but surely how can this be allowed? I'm sort of astounded by it, to be honest. That the government and that Boris Johnson think that that's okay, and that racism has all of a sudden gone away. Just in the past 12 months, look at the Black Lives Matter movement and everything else that's been going on. This isn't something that's gone away, or I can't see going away anytime soon.
No, and I mean, I've just looked at some statistics because I wanted to just, paint a picture of this. So it says here that black workers with degrees earn 23% less on average than white workers.
Wow.
While just 8.8% of all ethnic minorities work as managers, directors, and senior officials. And that goes down to 5.7% of black people.
Oh my goodness.
Black people who leave school with A levels typically get paid 14% less than their white peers. It's disgusting. It really is.
Disgusting. You know, we're in 2021. How is this still allowed to happen?
Because we allow it, is what I think. I honestly feel like because people keep on voting Tory, and because people keep voting Tory, you know, BAME people are being essentially like gaslit, and they're being made to feel like we're trying to whitewash history. We're trying to say, oh, okay, so right, instead of calling it, you know, the slavery period, let's call it the Caribbean experience, which is absolutely bizarre to me. Absolutely, I mean, I just can't. Does not compute. No. And then we're trying to say, oh, but you know, let's like ignore that black people and ethnic minorities are being paid X% less, like 14% less or 20% less than white people, because we're not institutionally racist. And so, but the figures speak for themselves.
Well, this is it.
Then it would be equal, wouldn't it?
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, well, the fact you've just read statistics. You've just read, so how can they?
The proof is there.
Yeah, the proof is in the pudding. It's ridiculous, and you know, I guess, you know, for someone who's, you know, black or in the ethnic minority, it must feel so degrading to them. Do you know what I mean? Imagine it must be horrendous, and I just think, you know, this shouldn't be allowed to happen. And I don't know what the name is of the Boris Johnson's advisor has stepped down, but do you know what? Good for him.
Yeah,
good for him for making a stand, because it takes people like,
doesn't it? Yeah. I mean, if all of the Tory MPs who you know are within the BAME community, if they start stepping down or they start publicly saying we do not agree with this because of X, Y, Z, if all the Labour MPs who fall within that community, if they also say it, and everyone bands together to say actually this is completely out of order, because the thing is, we do say Boris Johnson, and Boris Johnson is definitely at the heart of it, and he's definitely a moron, but also there are other people. It's not just him. He's not the one sitting there writing the report. There's going to be all of his advisors, all of the people who work at Downing Street, all those people, they are also to blame for this.
100%.
If not slightly more, because we expect him to be an idiot. But
well, you'd like to think there was some people around him with a few more brains and a bit more integrity, really, wouldn't we? But apparently not so.
It's just emotional intelligence, isn't it? Because we always talk about like IQ, which is like the intelligence quota. Intelligence quota. So the other one is the emotional quota, and to be able to have that emotional intelligence to look at that like report when it was proposed and think, how is this going to make someone else feel? Even if you think that this is true, which it's not. But let's say that they actually genuinely don't think that England or the UK is racist, which it is. Even if they do think that, how is the language of that report going to make people feel? Yeah. Because if you're trying to change these terminologies, instead of talking about slavery, you say the Caribbean experience. Yeah. It is horrendous. Quite blatant, horrendous twisting of the past, which I think is despicable.
Totally unacceptable. Yeah, it's horrendous, and it needs more people to start shouting and screaming about this and actually saying that this is not okay. And let's hope some momentum picks up from it, and that people do start, you know, sort of shouting out against it.
Well, I guess this is like where we're kind of saying with the protesting what we've just said about. So if it ends up being that we will be arrested or fined 10 grand if we protest, then when the government does stupid things like this, then how are we supposed to express our
annoyance?
Annoyance, exactly. Like how like people are going to be outraged, and if they can't express that in a way that is
legal,
peaceful, then they're going to end up turning to violence and turning to aggression, because they're going to say, well, you know, if we're not allowed to do, say, like a sit down protest where you just like sit down outside Parliament or whatever and protest XYZ, then they're going to say, well, you know, at night when there's less people walking around, why don't we go like brick the House of the Parliament, you know, or like why don't we like set fire to something, or why don't we do this, that and the other, because they're going to say, well, it's the only way we're going to be able to express our feelings and probably get away with it, you know.
No, definitely. It's just blooming bonkers, really. But yeah, let's hope some good can come out of it, if possible at all.
My throat's getting sore because I was like shouting. I was like,
it's something you feel very passionate about, and you know, rightly so.
Bang out of order.
Yeah, and I can 100% agree. It's bang out of order. So let's move on from that. We've got a few minutes left this morning. So this stress awareness day or month, I'm not sure, I forgot to look at that bit. Obviously stress is something we speak about loads, because it's something that affects every single one of us in different ways, isn't it? So Laurel, how do you get stressed? How does stress affect you?
I get grumpy and I get irritable. I don't want to talk to people either. I'm like trying to just hide away, and I want to hear from society.
Yeah. And do you have any coping mechanisms of how to deal with that? Or
I use gaming quite a bit. I'm a gamer by anyway, but I game more different games when I'm stressed.
Yeah, definitely. But you know, I think people really do lots. There's so many different ways stress affects people, but then there's also so many different ways in how people cope with it. I mean, like, I'm quite stressed. I'm a stressy person. I get stressed. You know, I get anxiety. I get stressed. It makes me grumpy. It makes me irritable. Same as you, Laurel. Sometimes it can make me sort of want to shut myself off from the world. Stress is a tricky one, I think, because there's so many different, you know, stress can be caused by so many different things, can't it? And I do think that this pandemic has brought on so much more stress for people than perhaps we normally would be dealing with. You know, there's been a lot more stress about job security, money worries, family and friends' health. This pandemic has sort of exacerbated all of that, hasn't it? And made that stress sort of 10 times worse. I don't know, for me, my coping mechanisms were reading. I love reading, and like, if I'm feeling really stressed out or something, if I can take myself away and give myself sort of half an hour just to focus on that, and really does make me chill out a bit. But the other thing I find really helps, and it's quite contradictory to sometimes how you're feeling, because sometimes you don't want to speak to anyone, you're too stressed, you want to hide away, but sometimes the best thing is talking to someone. And that can be really hard when you're feeling stressed, because it's sometimes the last thing you want to do. But definitely talking to someone and sharing the load, so to speak, can really sort of alleviate those stresses and worries, because sometimes you feel like all of this is on your shoulders and it's only happening to you and no one else is in the same position as you. But by talking and sort of sharing how you're feeling, you actually tend to find out that it's not just you. Loads of people are feeling that way, and always makes me feel better. What about you, Georgia? Are you stressy? Do you suffer with stress a lot, or?
I have like a very physical reaction to stress, I think. I tend to get like migraines, you know, which for anyone who's not had the pleasure of having a migraine, it is like the worst headache. And I tend to be quite ill from it, and just have to kind of lie down, take lots of painkillers and stuff. But then another way that stress comes out of me is I tend to get really upset and I tend to cry.
I do that
because
as well.
I just get to the point where I'm just like, I'm so frustrated. I can't express it in any other way than to just cry my eyes out for about 10 minutes. And then after that, I'm like, right, then let's go fix this problem then. And
well,
literally,
it's a release, isn't it? Like I do the same. Having that cry, sometimes I'll have a cry, and like my husband will go, "What's wrong?" I was like, "I don't know. I just need to have a big cry, and then I feel better again." You know?
Yeah, it's happened to me quite a bit. I've had that, I did have that with my dissertation. I used to have cries in the garden, then go back to dissertation and be fine.
Yeah. My partner isn't really like a. How best to put this?
Comforting.
He's not in the room. He's not in the room now, so it's okay. Yeah, he's not really like a very emotional person. He is a very pragmatic person. So he looks at things in a very logical way. He's like, you know, X, Y, Z, very straightforward, very to the point. Whereas me, because of the way that I'm wired, I'm very much X, A, B, Z, and I'm very much like that. So I get like really, really upset. And I tend to have like a cry, and then he comes in and he's like, "What is going on here?" Because I'm like, "Oh," and he's like, "Okay, I don't know how to deal with this." And he comes up, like, pats me on the head, and he's like, "Oh, are you okay?" And then he'll give me a hug, and then he'll say, "What's wrong?" And then I'll be like, and and it'll take a while. It'll take a while for me to get the whole like thing out. And then I'll say it, and then he goes, "Oh, that sounds horrible." Because he's not really, you know, but he tries, and that's the main thing, isn't it? If someone tries to understand and tries to empathize.
Definitely. Yeah,
and then about 2 minutes later, I'll be back to like, okay,
normal.
right, going back to work. And then he'll just be there like, this is the weirdest thing that I've ever experienced in my life.
Yeah. See, me and my husband are very similar. No, not similar. Sounds very similar to you and your partner, Georgia. Well, I don't know. I've been told I can have a tendency to be a bit dramatic at times. And like, I always think of like the worst case scenario. So, you know, like say something will happen and I'll be like, oh my God, it's like the end of the world. This is horrendous. And I'll get all upset. And then like Sam will be like, what are you upset for? And then I'll explain it to him. And he's like, that hasn't even happened yet. Why are you upset about something that hasn't even happened? And I'm like, but it might happen. He's like, deal with it when it happens. Don't cry about it yet.
Yeah. One piece of advice is don't worry about the what ifs, because I have that problem. But don't do it.
I have that lot, but that's very anxiety driven for me because I suffer very much with anxiety. And for people who do, you'll know that you're constantly forethinking. You're constantly thinking, oh, what if this still do? Or did I do that? Or did I do, you know, and it's a constant in your mind. So, you know, I could have a conversation with someone and go and get into bed that night and I'll lay there and think, did I annoy them by saying that? Or maybe they're going to follow, you know, oh God, should I have said that? Or did they take that?
I've had that quite a few times after conversations. It's like, have I overshared? Have I said too much about myself? Have I said this wrong or that wrong? Or it's usually about food. Mine likes food. My anxiety seems to get wrapped about, is the meat cooked enough? Has it been cooked well enough? Has it been done long enough? Is it not going to kill me tonight or something?
Yeah, my sister's a little bit like that. She's very particular. And if she ever watches this, I'm sorry, because I am going to share. But when she's like cooking food, she can't use say if my mum and dad have made a cup of tea, she can't use that spoon. She uses a new spoon.
Oh, so do I.
Yeah, and like she can't use the same cutting board. She has to use a different cutting board. Like she can't, and always like she can't drink something if someone else has drunk out of it, and food can't touch, like certain food can't touch, and like all these different things.
Food can't touch for me.
Yeah, and sometimes she gets very worked up about it, you know, and like we laugh, out of love, you know, like we try and make what's the word?
Make light heart of it.
Yeah, like not be really sick because it's not like annoying or anything, but we just kind of have like a little giggle because we're like, okay, you know, like she has to get a new thing and she has to, you know, whatever. But yeah, I mean, anxiety in that respect, you know, it affects my sister with food. It affects my other sister with like exams and things like that kind of stress. And Laurel, with you, it's kind of like food. And for sort of social things, for me, it's more like feeling very overwhelmed. That there's like I'm like a pressure cooker, and then I'm like ooh, like that. And then for Jasmin, for you, it's like quite social as well, isn't it? Like overthinking things and can you do something? Can you not do it? Stuff like that.
Yeah, it's funny how it's can vary so much from person to person. So Laurel, can you not have any food you eat can never touch each other? Really?
No. Yeah.
Do you eat? So when you like have a mouthful, is it like you have one mouthful of like say mashed potato, and then you have to get a new spoon and have a mouthful of like peas, and then a new spoon?
Well, it's not that extreme. I can like I'll go with the meal. I have the same knife and fork. I have my own set of knife and forks in my house. I have my own set, because it's just how I like it. Yeah. So I have my set on my knife and fork. My parents have whatever normal set they have. Like set wherever. Mine's always the same. I always know I have a working knife and fork, because sometimes on some knives and fork, after a while the handle starts to fall off, or it's something happens with the washing machine and disappears or something. So I like on a Tuesday night, every Tuesday night for the last like I think 5 years now, I've had the same meal.
Okay.
So I know what I'm having. So I have a potato waffle, well done.
Right.
So potato waffles. They look like squares.
Yeah.
I have about 5 chicken nuggets, and then I have peas on the side.
Okay.
And I have a bit of ketchup with the meal, but I'll have the ketchup in like a little spot. So what I'll do usually, the only thing I will touch is the ketchup and the peas. So I usually dump the peas on the ketchup, so I get a bit of flavour from the ketchup. But if I'm like eating like the food, I'll start with the chicken nuggets, because I want them to be boiling. I like my meat to be really hot. I'm like the odd person in the house that has to have everything really, really hot. So I have that first. So I'm usually eating that, finish that, and then I start eating the waffle. And then I'll start eating, and then I'll eat the peas with the ketchup.
Okay, so you don't actually have them together?
No.
So you go from peas, then say waffle, and then nuggets. So you do them in their food groups.
They're all separate, So you wouldn't have like a mouthful of waffle with peas with chicken nugget. No. Right, okay. I'm with you. I'm with you. I don't. That is funny actually, because she will eat them in the same mouthful, but like not touching on the.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So actually, that's quite funny, because that's the opposite, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like you'll have it like on the same plate, but like eat separate, and she'll have it separate, but then eat it. So, that's fun actually. Yeah. So I think you two would be a right pair, wouldn't you? If we were trying to make dinner for you, we were getting mixed up. But like, so you have it on the have the separate.
It's even more annoying with sauces, because I like sauces in a bowl. Not many sauces I like over things. So I usually have it on the side. So if I want to, I can dip it in. If I don't want to, I can just leave it. So like, the only sauce I don't mind over things is usually like on like pasta. I don't mind a tomato sauce over. But if it's anything else, like pesto or other sauces, I won't have it.
What about Laurel? If you go to a restaurant, are you okay using their knives and forks?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. It's such an interesting one, and you know, stress and anxiety and our own little habits is something that we do talk about a lot, but it's just a subject that you could talk about, isn't it? Because it affects us all differently, and we all have our own little sort of ways and means and whatnot.
Then I also have sensory sensitivities. Yay.
Yeah, bless you. You've got lots of things going on, haven't you? But you're doing well. You're doing so well.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah, definitely. So, right, ladies. I think that just about brings us to the end of our tea and toast this morning.
Oh, yeah. So I think the only other thing to say is that we will not be around tomorrow till. So we'll be back on Tuesday.
Yeah, it's the holiday, baby.
It's holidays. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be posting a video every day. Just to kind of remind you guys that we'll be back on Tuesday, and to just kind of I don't know, just to sort of check in and just make sure that everyone is groovy and knows how to get in touch with us if you need us. So yeah, but apart from that,
so everyone have an amazing Easter. The weather's going to be rubbish, but we can still wrap up and stand in the garden with a hot chocolate and an Easter egg and say hi to our friends and family. Remember the rule of 6 or two households. Remember still, please socially distance, masks, hand wash, hand gel, because, you know, the virus hasn't gone away. Although we are on the way out, it is still very much prevalent. So we still need to be careful, especially if we're visiting older relatives and whatnot. But have an amazing Easter weekend. We'll see you all on Tuesday. But have a great one, everybody. Happy Easter.
Happy Easter.
See you later. Bye.
Bye, everyone.